Danielle Harris here. First of all, I want to send my condolences about losing your brother-in-law. That's first. So I'm very sorry, and I hope you're doing okay. Second, how awesome, the Lost River Drive-In. I want to do a drive-in. I want to open a drive-in. Good for you. That's dope. And most importantly, thank you for ranking my movies in your top 6. What number was it out of the 6?
Halloween 2 is number 2.
Okay.
Halloween 4 is number 6. But I think that's 5 is number 4.
Oh, okay.
And the first Rob Zombie, I don't remember what it is, but
they're all up in there. Why, thank you. Sending you lots of love, and thank you for being a fan of mine. Take care of yourself. Happy Halloween.
How about that?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Jay because I know he's watching this. Thank you again for doing that, man. That was it was weird. I get on Instagram last night and I go to my inbox and I see a message from him saying, "You're gonna love me," and then right below it is Danielle Harris and the play button. I was like,
you knew right away.
Shut the hell up. And yeah, dude, I was on like cloud 9 over it. I'm like, Danielle Harris, like, she doesn't know who I am, but she's literally talking to me right now. But the thing that is the funniest part of the whole thing is she watching her bewilderment when Jay tells her that Halloween 5 is my number 3. And she's like, oh, wow. I'm like, that makes it for me. She's like, damn, he's wrong, but all right.
Did she actually think that you opened a drive-in? That was the other thing.
Dude, I don't know because I believe Jay told her not like it's my YouTube channel, like he's a YouTuber or whatever. But maybe she thought I did both. I don't know. Or maybe she was just like, yeah, like cool name. I'd love to open a drive-in sometime and like a random. I don't know. But I didn't want to get too into the weeds with it because I was like, Danielle Harris is speaking. You know, her being amazed at Halloween 5 being number 3, and you know, that's the thing I take away from that. And then her, you know, the drive-in and whatnot. But yeah, I didn't really nitpick what she meant exactly because I was like, dude, who cares? It's Danielle Harris. Like that's like the coolest thing anybody's ever done for me. And to think it just came about because of YouTube is really cool. So
what convention was that? Do you remember?
Horror Hound. And it's in Cincinnati, which is like 40 minutes away from me. And he was wondering if I was going to go, and I wanted to go. But dude, with like this wedding in 2 weeks and everything, it's like the money is just not there. Like I just couldn't do it.
Yeah. I had to cancel on Frightmare myself, man. Everything's just crazy right now. I can't afford to go, and it's just wild.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was cool. I did as soon as for everybody watching. As soon as I sent that to Christian, he was like, "First of all, that's going on the podcast." It's like, all right.
She's so beautiful, man. She is gorgeous.
She really is. I mean, I'd love to meet her too. She seems like a really nice person.
Yeah, she seems just cool. I know she wanted to be in the Halloween movies, man. Like I wish she was. You know, Rob Zombie was cool enough to put her in, and she was great. And both of the I loved her in Halloween too, dude. I love her character, and I love everybody's character in too, quite frankly. But dude, Harris, she's awesome. And just to think to the fact that she was probably what? Okay, I think she's 42, 41 or 42 now. So that means in 2009, she was like 32 or 3. Or actually, no, she was like 30. That was a 30-year-old woman playing like a teenager.
If I'm not mistaken, Danielle's 44.
Oh, yeah, even so, I mean,
40. Yeah. So she was 33.
That's awesome. I mean, she still looks like she looks a good 10 years behind whatever she is. So she looks like a 33 or 34-year-old woman right now. I mean, she looks great. Not that even 44 is really old anymore, because 40 is the new 30, but still, she just looks amazing.
Yeah, she really does. It's I don't know, it's crazy. It's like I feel like ever since I've been watching her in like these documentaries and behind the scenes featurettes over the years, it doesn't look like she's aged much over these past 15 years. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
No.
So Nick, I guess we could do a few preliminaries. Of course, today's mug, I actually got this from Spirit. It's a Halloween 2 mug, and it's awesome. I really like it. I guess it's the same thing, and it's actually orange on the inside. So I went to Spirit today, and it was awful. I mean, this Spirit it almost looked like it was like November 4th or 5th, and they were literally just waiting to. That's how little amount of stuff they had in there. It was really sad. Still waiting on
Yeah.
trucks to come in. It's just like, come on, guys.
Yeah. I'm going tomorrow. I'm going to go to a different one
Me
than the
too.
one I went through last time. And I'm going to see, I'm going to go, and I'm sure you know this too. You want to seek out the bigger ones for everybody watching. Don't seek out a smaller one. Don't seek out one in a mall because those are like 90% costumes. You're not going to find the stuff you want there. So,
yeah. I did grab this today thing on 4K.
Yes.
I'll say this, dude. I think we talked about this, and this is the irony. Okay, so we mentioned when we talked about the thing, I remember, I forgot what episode it was, but we were saying to each other, it's like, yeah, I don't really pre-order that stuff because they show up in Best Buy so I can get it there. I talked to a woman today when I was going to get the thing. I wanted the Steelbook. I went to 3 today. I went to one of the biggest cities in Louisiana, and I went to 3 Best Buys. None of them had the Steelbook, and every time I went, they all said the same thing. And I went to the last Best Buy, which was the second biggest of the 3, and these are all big cities. I say, ma'am, can I ask you a question? She goes, sure. I said, do you have like an inventory thing? You can look something up for me. She goes, yeah, what's up? I said, okay, so the thing, it just came out in 4K. You guys have this release, but there's a steelbook of it. It's unavailable to order online right now. And I just want to know if you guys happen to have any stock maybe in the back or something. She goes, okay, well, let me look. And she goes, ooh, baby. I said, what's wrong? She goes, that one you got in your hand. And this was the third Best Buy. I held off. She goes, that one copy you got in your hand, that's the only one we got, and we ain't getting no more. I said, are you serious? She goes, yeah. So I said, so basically what I understand is this. The pre-orders were so morbidly high for the Steelbook before when it was announced that they probably had to pull damn near all the stock that was probably going to go to the stores for the pre-orders to ship. Because I don't think, because, and of course, those Steelbooks, they are limited when they do the initial run when it comes out, and it's done. It's done. So unless for some unbeknownst reason they restock the Steelbooks for the stores, I just don't think that the Steelbooks, I think the Steelbook's done. So I just went ahead and said, screw it. And I just got the release today, but I'm going to review that soon. I can't wait to watch this on freaking 4K. This is going to be amazing. And you really can't go wrong with that because, I mean, the classic artwork's great. But, dude, that Steelbook is gone. I think that sucker is – I think everybody pre-ordered it before it was announced. So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to pick it up too, but it's a bummer because I would have liked that Steelbook.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
So.
21 for this, though, is good for a 4K. Usually 4Ks are $29.95. And the Steelbook's like 26, but this is 21, so can't complain.
Yeah.
You know. And the only other thing I got today, I got some magazines. I got a Fangoria and a Scream, but I did find the Total Film Halloween. It's got an interview with Johnny in here. Can't wait to read that. Pretty cool little magazine. So it's actually really tall. Like this is Fangoria. And like Fangoria is this one's like massive. It sticks out over the top of it. So big. It's a pretty big magazine.
Where did you find that?
Barnes and Nobles. So if you go to Barnes and Nobles, I would assume that or Books a Million. Basically, one of those two premier bookstores because they usually have a vast magazine stuff. Like you probably won't find Total Film at a Walmart or a Target. So that's my guess. But I went to Barnes and found it. And they had one copy of it. So I snagged it right away.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get it.
Yeah. Well, it finally just started. I've been checking, and it finally hit because I remember when it got announced. I think we messaged each other about it, and I was like, "Well, I got to get that."
Yeah.
So it's finally showing up. I guess the only other preliminary thing we're going to talk about, Malignant. We both just saw that.
Yes, we did both just see that.
Go ahead.
I mean, we both did a review on each of our channels. If you guys want to check those out to get some more in-depth thoughts about it, but I loved it. I thought it was a blast. Didn't scare me like Wan's movies typically do. Although I will say the first act, there was some creepy, like atmospheric stuff in there for sure. But I think overall, dude, it's so fun. Like, subvert your expectations because the trailers make you think you're getting some type of supernatural horror film, and it's not that at all. I was completely taken aback by what it
What it
ended up
was.
being. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I was all for it. I mean, I was all for it. It's just fun, man. And it's a James Wan movie. You can tell he's got a very specific touch and flavor to his films, and it's in there. You can tell you're watching a James Wan movie, whether it's the kind of quick zoom in on something, or whether it's the shots overhead going throughout a house from room to room, all overhead. Like, that's James Wan. So, but I really loved it.
Yeah, me too. I loved the fact that it was nightmarish and almost Tim Burton-esque. I saw some people say that the CGI was really bad, and some people thought the acting was bad. I don't know. I liked it a lot. I thought that the girl, Anna, I think her name was Annabelle, something, the star. I thought
Wallace.
she was awesome. I thought she was the tone of that movie. One of the things I was seeing again, and this is just my opinion, but people were saying that it seemed unintentionally campy, and I couldn't really disagree more with that. I was thinking to myself, do you really think James Wan does anything unintentional? I mean, that seems silly to me. Now, if you find it campy, I can understand that. I definitely thought that the subject matter really needed that kind of light-ish shade of gray. But I loved how nightmarish and outer worldly and Tim Burton-esque it almost felt, especially with the third act and the insanity of that. I just thought it was really nightmarish and fun and completely unrealistic, which was, really. It was really a breath of fresh air compared to everything we've got coming out right now. Because let's be honest, the paranormal, it's almost like James Wan is saying, screw what I've created before, in a sense, like he's trying to get away from it. Because what took over the world of horror, what we're talking about today, the Conjuring universe. And what is the Conjuring universe? Straightforward, spooky, scary, supernatural horror with no comedic anything. Now, this one, it's like I thought the film felt very 2000s horror-ish, and I thought that it was over the top, ridiculous, but really fun and energetic. And it's almost like James is like, I have to get out of the world I've created almost. I'm not saying that's what's going on in his mind, but from my perspective, that's what I almost felt like what it was. So I ate it up, and I thought it was a complete breath of fresh air, you know?
Yeah. He I guess he was like quoted as saying that this movie was a love letter to the fans and to those subgenres of horror, and his way of saying, basically, Warner Brothers was like, you just did a movie that made over $1 billion, Aquaman. I never saw it, but it was, pretty highly regarded. And he did a Fast and Furious movie that made a ton of money. So they just handed him the keys and said, dude, do whatever you want. Whatever you want. You're making us a ton of money. We don't care. And he took that and said, okay, I'll do something totally different. If there's one thing I think about when I think about Malignant, aside from the reveal, is and I'm not going to get into spoilers, guys, but that police station scene in the third act is some of the gnarliest balls to the wall stuff I've seen in a horror movie recently. I mean, it was just, man.
Yeah, it was great. Hard to
But
keep up with it.
I don't, yeah, and I don't think the acting was bad at all. I really don't. I really don't. I think that the actors that you were supposed to care about, you cared about. Um, like the main girl, Madison, played by Annabelle Wallace. I think she did a fantastic job. Um, yeah, I mean, no real complaints. Everybody else was kind of secondary characters. You didn't. I mean, how invested are you really? But
Yeah, I was invested
yeah,
in the twist, or not necessarily. I was so invested in what is it, what is going on. Because of how absolutely, almost absurdly crazy the twist was, I couldn't have guessed that. It was impossible to
yeah.
guess. It was impossible to guess. So
We're sitting on the couch, my brother and myself and my fiance, and they're both kind of checked out of the movie at this point because it wasn't what they expected from a James Wan movie. And I'm just sitting there into it, and that the reveal happens, and they do the reveal in this really kind of cool. I don't know. It's gross. I'll just say that when they do the official reveal, and I literally said out loud, I looked at both of them. I was like, "What the fuck?" like, pardon my French, but I was like,
And they didn't
what is
like it,
happening?
right?
Yeah, she said it was okay. My brother said, and I quote, "Yeah, dude, that movie put me to sleep last night, man." And he loves James Wan. Like, he was stoked for this movie, and it
Is he
just
a
wasn't what he
horror?
wanted.
Is he a big horror fan?
Yeah, but Blake's forte is paranormal horror. That's his forte. So that's why he gravitates to Wan.
Yeah. Well, if he's making that movie for his hardcore fans, and horror fanatics, maybe that's why the disconnect happened there. I loved it, man. I was so grateful that we have a movie like that come out right now because of how bizarre it truly was. And, that was a horror film. I want something nightmarish and outlandishly insane, Loved it. Couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
I'm ready for part two. I mean, certainly we could get a part two of this possibly. Now, the box office, I don't think was great for it at all. But look, it came out on HBO. Everybody watched it at home, and because of what you said, he made billions of dollars. Dude, it doesn't matter. It just truly Juan has the keys to, you know, that world.
Oh yeah, he
Studio wise.
owns Warner Brothers at this point. He owns them. He created the Conjuring universe, which is one of the largest, if not, it's one of the largest horror franchises in existence ever, money wise. Um, he's dabbled in Fast and Furious and superhero movies. Yeah, dude, he can
He
do
can do
whatever
it
he
all.
wants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of James Wan, he's going to be a subject matter of today with, among other people. Today we are ranking the Conjuring universe. I'm really excited about this. It couldn't have been more fitting. I'm glad that we didn't do this. Well, I take that back. I am glad that we did this today and not earlier in the week when we were kind of supposed to, because we were able to talk about *Malignant*, which is not a part of the Conjuring universe. There's no way that's a part of the Conjuring universe. At least I don't think, unless I watch some weird YouTube video in the future saying how
Yeah,
*Malignant*
they'll
is part
tell
of the
you.
Conjuring universe. But I would say that it's totally not, and the movie is as insane and wild as it is to so differentiate itself. But we are talking about the Conjuring universe today. We're going to rank the films. Nick, what I would like to do is talk about each film in the order of when they were released, and then when that's done, we'll rank them worst to best. How's that sound?
Dude, I'm stoked. I saw every single one of these movies in theaters.
Me too.
I have mostly fond memories of all of them. I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm ready to get into this.
All right. So there are. Oh, that's the wrong mouse. I've got my work computer right here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 movies in the Conjuring universe, and the Conjuring universe started in 2013 with The Conjuring. The first installment of the series centers on the real life exploits of Ed and Lorraine Warren, a married couple who investigated paranormal events. Patrick Wilson starred alongside Vera Farmiga in the main roles of Ed and Lorraine. The film focused on the Warren 71 case in which they investigated a witch's curse at a farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. The Conjuring was released on July 19th, 2013 to positive reviews. It earned $318 million against a budget of $20 million, becoming one of the most profitable horror films in history. Wow.
Yeah.
So let's get started. Before this, to me, when I thought James Wan, obviously there was one movie that constantly came to mind. I am a big fan of Dead Silence, but the movie that came to mind is Saw. And to me, that's still my favorite James Wan film. I think that's one of the best horror films of this world. I'm such a Saw fan, but The Conjuring, I would say now, arguably, is his probably his biggest film, so to speak. There's more people that know The Conjuring now than probably saw, I would say. But Nick, take us back 2013. You saw this in theaters?
I was dating a girl, and my best friend Dave was dating her best friend.
Michael Myers,
And
Dave.
so, yeah, Michael Myers, Dave. And we thought, dude, let's all go see this spooky movie. It was my, it was my senior. No, yeah, no, it was my senior. It was my senior year of high school. Yeah, and so we go and see this movie, or no, I just graduated. My bad. So we go and see this movie, and I'm sitting here, and I know what I'm getting into. I've seen every James Wan film up to this point, and I knew this movie was going to give me like Dead Silence vibes. It was going to be that type of paranormal, spooky ghost story type movie. What I wasn't expecting was for this movie to literally scare me at every turn that it could. And I thought I was some like hardened horror veteran that, like, dude, like, come on. Like, yeah, it's a spooky ghost movie, whatever. I mean, from the hide and clap scene to there's even a point where Roger, the dad, is walking through the house at night, and the way the camera work, and James Wan's so good with this, the way the camera work is he like comes up to the bottom of the steps and the camera like pans around and you see one of his daughters standing right there in a robe, and there's not even a sound, but it scared me. I was like, holy crap, where did she come from? And it wasn't even supposed to be a jump scare. But it's that climax that like just burned into my craw. I remember, I won't even lie to you guys, this is one of the only horror movies ever in my entire life where I'm in the theater, like kind of like this, like I was watching, but I was like waiting there, like, I don't know how well I'm gonna be able to do this. It just terrified me. I mean, it terrified me. The Bathsheba, the way she looked, the things she said. I mean, it was just so evil. And the sound design, especially in a theater, man, a movie like this, you got to see in a theater. You know, stuff's flying around, people are screaming, things are shaking. You got to experience that in the theater. And to this day, it's still the scariest movie theater experience I've ever had. And I think it's the scariest film I've ever seen. It still freaks me out when I watch it. And I know everything that's coming because I just don't like that Bathsheba chick. All right. She's creepy looking. And, but yeah, man, I don't need to rant about it, but yeah, that's my memory of seeing The Conjuring. What about you?
Close to the same. I remember I think I watched Leatherface 3D in the theater, and there was a preview because Leatherface came out in early 2013.
January. Yep.
And I think I remember seeing the promotion for that, and so I was like, "Oh, that looks great." And then I knew James Wan at that point already, so yeah, went to the theater, and I was just like, "Jesus Christ!" That was the same thing, just scare. It was scary. Really good movie. I really liked it. I remember my initial takeaway of the movie, which is really the same as how I feel today, is I thought that the first half of that movie was a perfect 10 on how scary it was. I mean, just the first half of that movie was so good. I was shocked. I mean, I like the second half, but the first half of that movie to me was so unbelievably scary. You know, I couldn't fathom it. It was so good. But
Like
I
even
loved it.
just the
Saw it.
little things.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Continue. I'll address it
I
in a
was
minute.
well. I was gonna say you can go was I think I went to the theaters 3 times. I went with my wife to see it. I took my mom to see it, and I think my brother went with me to see it because I was just floored at how good it was. And I would tell him, I said the first half of this movie is really scary. You know, once you start seeing this stuff, I mean, it's still scary, but I mean, the first half will shock you. I mean, it was so good. The beautiful shots of the mom lighting the flame in the basement, and then you see the oh man, that
Mm-hmm.
got me. That was one of my favorite moments.
Yeah.
So love the Conjuring. So I saw it 3 times in the theaters. But yeah, that's all I was gonna add to that.
And to what you're saying, like, yeah, the first half is so effective because it is James Wan doing what directors nowadays don't do, which is I'm going to scare you by not showing you like anything. And, a lot of directors think that they have to put these visceral images in your face to get a reaction. But the scene with one of the daughters standing in the doorway and she's like, it's right behind you, and like it almost looks as if it actually, I think it is the blackness behind her almost looks like it's getting like bigger and bigger slowly, or I think it's just a camera trick, but you're led to believe this entire time that you're going to see something and you don't, but the tension is like palpable in that scene, and it's just like you're terrified because you're like, dude, what am I about to see? Like, just show it to me already. Like, get this over with. He's just fantastic at that. I mean, I don't think there's and also too the little stuff like if you're someone that's religious, like when he's just Roger's explaining, the going ons around the house when they first meet Ed and Lorraine, and like Ed's like, does it come in threes? Stop at dawn? He's like, yeah, yeah. He's like, yeah, that's a mockery of the Father, Son, and the Holy
Holy
Spirit. And it's
Trinity.
like, yeah, dude, you're like, oh my God, that's so creepy. Cause you know exactly right then what you're dealing with. Like, that's a demon, bro.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. So yeah, both big fans of it. Obviously, we'll get to the ranking when we get to it. Uh, so next in 2014 came Annabelle, because obviously there was a flashback scene in the first movie that showed the doll, which gained a lot. I'm sure during the screenings of The Conjuring, I'm sure there was a lot of notes, things you liked. Oh, that doll, that doll, that doll. I'm sure when they did test screenings, they saw a lot of that. If I had to guess. Um, so a year later, I have a bug on my microphone. The Conjuring 2 was commissioned after the success of the original film and was also directed by. Oh, hold on, I'm skipping. I'm so sorry. Annabelle, not The Conjuring 2. A spin off film focusing on the origins of the Annabelle doll that was introduced in The Conjuring was announced shortly after the release of its forerunner, mainly due to the film's worldwide box office success and positive reception towards the character. Well, there we go. The plot focused on John and Mia form a married couple expecting a kid, whose vintage doll Annabelle becomes possessed by a vengeful spirit after a cult couple breaks into their home and are killed. The film was directed by the Conjuring cinematographer John R. Leonetti and produced by Safran and Juan, with Gary Doberman behind the script. The film was released worldwide on October 3rd, 2014, to major commercial success, becoming the 14th most profitable horror film in North America. Many critics found Annabelle to be an inferior film compared to The Conjuring. You want to lead us off on Annabelle?
Not only do I find it to be an inferior film to The Conjuring, I find it, and maybe I'm a little harsh, I find it almost insulting as the follow up to The Conjuring in a sense, although it is a spinoff. Because when I first saw it, I remember liking it, like I really did, and every rewatch since then, and most recently a couple months ago when I bought the Steelbook to rewatch it, I just I just don't find enjoyment in the movie anymore. I think the opening sequences are really good. The cult. I think that's creepy. Like I think that the girl sitting in the chair rocking Annabelle is creepy. Um, but after that, I think it just all goes downhill. I don't think there's a lot of suspense built. Like it's just not there. It's more of like they show you the demon, which looks like your prototypical demon. Horns, claws, all that. I didn't get invested enough in the family. Um, I don't know what it is, man. I felt like the movie was supposed to be about Annabelle, and it seemed like it was more about. They didn't use the doll enough. I don't think they went more for the demon. The I don't know. I could go on and on, but I'm not a big fan. I'm really not a big fan of it, and it was a bummer because that doll creeped me out when I saw The Conjuring, and I just didn't like the movie. Is it one of the worst horror movies I've ever seen? No, no. But in the Conjuring universe, I feel like it sticks out like a sore thumb because most of these movies are really good at building dread and suspense and fear and really setting up those scares. And I think this movie just kind of gives them to you, and they feel unearned and they just don't feel the same. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I went to see this in the theaters too, and I would agree with the critics that it is inferior. I wouldn't say it was. I wouldn't call it insulting. I just don't. It's nothing compared to The Conjuring. I mean, I could sum it up. I think in one sentence, it really wasn't scary. It just wasn't scary. It was entertaining because I was excited to see the movie about the doll, but something about the 50s. I'm not saying that the 50s aren't scary, but the film just, I don't know, dude, the look of the 70s lends itself to horror so much. I mean, The Exorcist is a great example. Texas Chainsaw, Halloween, something about the 70s is so inherently scary to me. The way people looked, the way music sounded, and the wallpaper people had in their homes. Like I don't know, like that '70s house in The Conjuring was so scary, but something about the '50s, it just kind of felt almost homey. The house itself that the husband and wife were in, didn't really scare me that much. The Annabelle doll, you see it non messed up. I don't know. Also, the music, I don't remember the music being that great. I remember the music was great in The Conjuring. I think it was just because it was done as a quick, hey, we're successful. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's do the doll. I really commend them for doing the doll movie and not going straight to The Conjuring 2. But yeah, it's simply okay. I give it a 5 out of 10. If I'm gonna not rank it, but rate it on something, I just thought it was middle of the road at best. At best,
Yeah,
don't hate
and I
it,
will
but
say, I know I'm being a little too harsh when I say insulting. I think I'm saying insulting just because personally, like you said, you come out of the experience with The Conjuring and like the visceral experience that is, and you're like, I'm ready for more. And you get hyped for this and you go see it and you're like, the last one scared the crap out of me. And this one was just kind of boring.
met you
And it's
halfway
just,
almost. It didn't scare you. It didn't set you up to
yeah,
really frighten you.
no. And it's so I just don't have fond memories of it. It's got a nice steelbook though.
I have it.
Yeah.
But so 2 years later, The Conjuring 2 would release. God damn it, I keep grabbing the wrong mouse. A sequel, The Conjuring 2, was commissioned after the success of the original film. It was also directed by Wan, with both Farmiga and Wilson reprising their roles. The film focuses on the Enfield poltergeist case in London in 1977, while briefly referring to the events that inspired the Amityville horror. It was released on June 10th, 2016, to positive reviews from critics and audiences. Some agreed that the film was vastly superior to other horror sequels, while others debated whether the film has surpassed its predecessor in quality. Spoiler alert, I agree with that. Proving to be similarly successful to the first entry in the series, the film became another profitable addition to the franchise, having earned $320.3 million worldwide on a budget from 40, and becoming the second highest grossing horror film of all time, after The Exorcist, until It was released in 2017. So $40 million, $320 million box office. But the first one was $20 million and did 318. So technically, The Conjuring one was still more profitable because it had half the budget. But obviously, even just 3 years later, the blood cry for The Conjuring 2 was merciless, because the exact same amount of people showed up to go see it, close to it. So, Nick, you could lead us off on 2016's The Conjuring 2.
Saw this opening night as well. And this actually was one of those movies I still vividly remember to this day that I was so hyped for this. And it was scary again, although I will say not as scary as the first film, in my opinion. But it was scary. It had Juan back, so you had the feel. It feels like a perfect companion piece to The Conjuring. Um, Vera and Patrick Wilson are one of the best on-screen couples ever, and they just work so well. And I love that this movie was multi-layered. The Conjuring's multi-layered in its own way, but this movie is like a lot of plot points, and at no point do any of them seem messy. And I think that is a really hard line to toe, and James Wan did that perfectly, from Lorraine's personal and literal demon that she's dealing with. And we get the nun in this movie, which is one of the creepiest characters ever. And then you're dealing with the family and their haunting. And then you're dealing with the outsiders in England thinking that they are faking it. The media, the tabloids, the psychiatrists, whatever. There's just a ton of plot points that all lend themselves well to the other one. And I loved the movie. I walked out of it and I immediately said to Dave, I said, I think that might be better than the first one. And we'll get to our ranking, but yeah, love this movie. While it's not as scary as the first, it's still scary, and it's like way better than most sequels have any right to be in the horror genre.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I loved this one too. What I loved about it so much was even though it's based off of stories, James Wan did not repeat himself, I guess stylistically the same. So I wasn't able to trust him at that point in a good way. I couldn't trust him because when that weird thing shows up, I was like, wait a minute, did I feel
The
like we just
Crooked Man.
I feel like we just broke a rule. Wait a minute, you know? So when that happened, I felt like I couldn't trust James anymore, which was awesome, meaning I didn't know what to expect. I think that world uh that UK world is scary, especially during that time too in the 70s. It just this again, the 70s are just so scary to me. I loved it. I love the story. Um I understand the need to really make the dynamic between the husband and wife, the the Warrens, kind of have like that wa- those heartwarming moments. But man, I just could care less about that. I agree that they're a great couple, but man, every time they come on screen and they're given the I love you this, I love you that, blah blah blah. We're here for a reason. I get it, and it's the right decision because that's I think what really connects the movie with the audience. But I just could care less about that. I agree they're a great couple on screen, but I'm always just like, okay, can we wrap that up? I want to go back to the horror.
Show me more
So
demons, okay?
I'm not saying James overdid it in part two, or part one for that matter. But that's my least. I'm always just like, okay, I get it. You guys love each other. We've established that. Uh, but that's besides that, I loved part two so much. I think it's so great. I just love the fact that my first time watching it, James made me say to myself, I can't trust him. That was weird when the Crooked Man showed up. I was like, what the hell? That's not supposed to be in The Conjuring,
And the
you know.
craziest thing about the Crooked Man too is that is a practical effect, and it looks so fake, and it's not. And it's like it doesn't look fake in the sense of like, oh my god, that's terrible CGI. No, it just looks like that can't be real. Like that's not real. And then you find out, no, it is real. It's a contortionist actor. I want to say it's Javier Botet, who has done tons. He was the keyhole demon in Insidious: The Last Key. He was the leper in It Chapter 2. He does a lot of work like that.
I want to
And to
say
know
that
that that was
name.
real,
I want to say that name was on. I have to look at the credits again, but I want to say that person's name was on *Malignant* for the contortionist work.
oh, yeah, he might have been.
I've got to double check that. I've got to double
He
check
works
that.
with Juan a lot.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, but obviously both big fans, and the film was vastly successful. So I loved The Conjuring 2. That was awesome. But we're
yep.
moving up to next year, 2017. An Annabelle sequel was in development, eventually revealed to be a prequel to the original film. The plot of the film centers on a doll maker and his wife, whose daughter tragically died 12 years earlier. As they decide to open their home to a nun and several girls from a shuttered orphanage, the doll maker's possessed creation. I should not have taken my glasses off for this. Creation Annabelle sets her sights, as a matter of fact, sets her sights on children and turns their shelter into a storm of horror. Lights Out director David F. Sandberg, and I'm just going to call you out right now, David. I'm not blaming you. I'm going to blame the script. Lights Out was an awful movie. That short that went across on Facebook years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, with the girl flipping the light switch on and off, that was amazing. But that movie was dreadful. It should have stayed just that Facebook movie. I'm sorry. Lights Out director David F. Sandberg replaced Leonetti as director, with Doberman returning to write the script and Safran and Wan returning to produce. The film was released worldwide on August 11th, 2017, to critical and commercial success, with many critics stating Annabelle Creation was a vast improvement over its predecessor. So at this point, this Conjuring universe is wild. We've got a majorly successful movie, a really lackluster, poorly received spin-off a year later, a very successful sequel to The Conjuring 2, and then the absolutely underdog film Annabelle Creation coming out a year later. So what do you remember about this one?
I was scared to go see this in theaters because of how much I was bummed out about Annabelle. But I said, screw it. It's the summertime. let's go see the movie. And I saw most of these movies with Dave, and we went and saw this together. And to say that it was an improvement over Annabelle is an understatement. Annabelle Creation is fantastic. I mean, I love this movie. Um, this movie plays with light and shadow, plays with that building tension like you would see in the mainline Conjuring films of something's about to happen, and sometimes it doesn't happen, and then sometimes it finally does, and when you get that payoff, it's like, oh hell yeah. Um, Creepy visuals and some unrelenting stuff, like when the little girl is going up the steps in that chair and reaches the top, and then you think, oh, the demon's going to get her, and then it's like gone, and it just picks her up and throws her like down like all the way down to the bottom floor. You're just like, that's mean, that's a child. um dude, I love it. I mean, I love this movie. I really, really do. And I walked out of the theater and I was like, dude, I can't. I'm so happy I liked that because I was so worried. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Still love it. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, same. Verbatim. I went into the theater with Annabelle Creation with basically like the, hey, you know what, Leo, let's just go have a good time. And you know how you talked about being scared during The Conjuring? Well, that's how I really felt with Annabelle Creation. That house was absolutely horrifying. The girl who had to get on that climber, the seat climber, the handicap girl, I was like, "Oh god," I just knew right from the start there's going to be some horrifying scenes with um that room with the doll sitting in that little boxed room with nothing but Bible sheets across the. Oh my god, it scared the hell out of me. The demon in that movie haunts my dreams. I was shocked by how scary this was to me. When I left the theater, I couldn't believe it. It just goes to show you that sequels can be done, or in this case prequels can be done. There's always a lot of times sequels just aren't as good, and because there's so much love and organic nature to doing something fresh and new. But sometimes you can do a sequel just straight up better. And even though this is a prequel, for God's sakes, it came out afterwards. Annabelle Creation boot DDTs, Stone Cold Stuns, Rock Bottoms, pedigrees the previous one all day long. It's like a Sesame Street version. Annabelle is like a Sesame Street movie compared to Creation. Creation just blew me away. I mean, I loved it to death. I was shocked
Yeah,
how much I liked it.
it's some of the demon scenes too. The problem I had with Annabelle was some of them were like really deliberate, whereas in this one I felt like they were very like they didn't give you too much of it to where it seemed like you were going to get desensitized to it. Like the scene where the little girl is in the top bunk and she hears it underneath her and she looks through the crack in the wall down to the bottom bunk, and you just see the black hand just grab the doll and like pull the doll away, and you're like, dude, what the hell? And then the scene where uh, Annabelle Higgins, the manifestation of her at the time, is like crying at the window, and she's like, "Can you help me?" And she's like, "What do you need?" And she turns around and goes, "Your soul," and like her face like morphs into the demon. I'm like, dude, that scared the crap out of me in the theater. But yeah, it's awesome. It's an awesome movie.
Yeah. As far as money, let's see. I like to look up the box office. For some reason, this one didn't list it on the uh thing. So it looks like holy crap. You ready for this?
Yeah, this one made a lot.
$15 million budget, $306 million. Wow. So far by this point, this universe has grossed over a billion. I think over $1 billion. I don't know. Uh, it said that
Yep.
Annabelle was the 14th most profitable horror film in North America. So yeah, I'm assuming we're well over it. We're close to $1 billion at this point in 1, 2, 3, 4 movies. That's insane.
We're over
Um,
because the first one was 318, the second one was 340. This one was 306, and so that's almost 950 right there. And then Annabelle, I know, probably made 200 million or so. So yeah,
Probably, yeah,
we're over a billion now.
yeah. This is where things get interesting. Um,
Ah,
The
yes.
Nun, 2018. And obviously, the beautiful thing about these films is in James Wan's movies, he dedicates time and efforts with his team, because they deserve all the credit as well, to create these moments in films that are so organically eye-catching and like, oh my god. So when we saw The Nun in the painting and things like that, and we saw, the doll, we want to know more instantly because we're so connected to those scenes. So here we go. A spin-off film titled The Nun, featuring the demon nun character Valak from The Conjuring 2, is directed by Corin Hardy. The Conjuring 2 co-scribe David Leslie Johnson initially announced as the writer before being replaced by Gary Doberman, and Wan, who also produced with Safran. uh, Demian Bashir stars in the lead role. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing her name. While Bonnie Aarons reprised her role in the film. The plot of the film follows a nun, a priest, and a novitate as they investigate an unholy secret and confront a malevolent force in the form of a demonic nun. The film was released on September 7th, 2018, and grossed. Ready for this? The film was released on September 7th, 2018, and grossed $365 million on a budget of $22 million, becoming the highest grossing film in the franchise. Think about that, because right off the bat, nobody liked this movie. But because the character was so endeared or loved from the moments before, everybody was so excited to go see The Nun. So it's probably the least liked film, and it made the most money. Think about that. I'm assuming you don't like The Nun. Am I right?
No, no, I wanted to leave you in suspense. Um, I don't dislike it.
So you like The
Uh,
Nun?
well, it's a love hate relationship here. I saw it in theaters, and I was stoked, and I hated it. We both hated it. We walked out and we said that sucked. What a bummer. And then I watched it on home video, and I found some merit to it. I love the gothic atmosphere and setting. I think it's beautiful. The opening scene of the movie is really creepy, with the nun coming down that hallway very slowly, at the nun that eventually hangs herself. And like the candles going out with every step that the nun takes. Like that's cool. I think that there's some genuinely beautiful set pieces and good acting, but the problem with the nun is it's just not scary. It's a CGI fest. And most importantly, for me, the way they try to tie the story up, just no, wasn't a fan of it. Oh, this guy is actually the guy from the video from The Conjuring. Isn't that crazy? Except you could tell it wasn't him because you reshot that for this movie. But
Mm-hmm.
um, no, it's I don't think it's terrible, but I don't dislike it. It's okay. Um, I don't think there's really like a truly bad film in this series. I think the thing that saves this movie is uh, Teosa Farmiga. I think she does great in this movie. Vera's sister. I think she really does a good job in this movie, but it's just over reliance on CGI and bullshit. Really, honestly.
Yeah. I'm not a massive fan of it. I don't hate it either, but I'm not a big fan of it. I don't think people wanted. I mean, it takes place in 1952. We're gonna call that a period piece. Okay, that's almost we're it's a long time ago. I just don't think people wanted the movie to take place during that time and in that setting. I think people wanted stuff like what they saw in the Conjuring movies, just taking like the pictures and the. I don't know. I just think people had a very think. I think the general public had a very different idea of the movie they were gonna see. I really did. I'm not taking away what you're saying. I do think it was beautifully shot and stuff like that. I just don't think the movie was what the general audiences probably had in mind before going to see it. That's my
It wasn't.
guess.
No, it wasn't. And I'm just trying to be a little kinder to it than I was for years, because the first year and a half this movie has, was out into the world, I just didn't like it. And I felt like maybe I was being a little unfair to it. And, like you said, I think it's shot well. I think it's acted well, but I think that the scares in it are just your run of the mill scares. I mean, they really are. None of them are inventive. Um, yeah, there is one thing that I will say. This has one of the most badass moments in any of the Conjuring universe movies, with that genuinely made me go like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." With spoiler warning, guys, with the blood of Christ. Um, I thought that was pretty cool. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, "That's pretty sweet." But aside from that, it's forgettable. It really is.
Well, they got the money out of it, so people can forget what they want, but they already paid for it. So a year later came a movie that nobody really saw coming, The Curse of La Llorona. And I can't roll my tongue very well, so I apologize. In
I thought
October
you
of
did
20...
fine.
Thank you. At least I'm not saying The Curse of La Llorona, you know. In October 2017, Wan served as the producer of a horror film directed by Michael Chaves and starred Linda Cardellini, which was then titled The
Dahmer.
Children. The film was later retitled The Curse of La Llorona, also known as The Curse of the Weeping Woman in some international markets. Though marketed as a standalone film, there is a nod to the Conjuring universe in the form of Tony Amendola, who reprised his role from Annabelle as Father Perez. The character gives direction to the family being tormented by the titular spirit. Raymond Cruz, Patricia Velasquez, and Sean Patrick Thomas co-star in this film. The Curse of La Llorona premiered at South by Southwest on March 15th, 2019, to mixed reviews and had a wide theatrical release on April 19th. The Curse of La Llorona. What do you remember about that?
So this wasn't marketed as a Conjuring film, and people were confused as to why, because you literally, again, you had the priest coming back to reprise his role, and he mentions Annabelle. So it's almost like once it came out, Michael Chavez was like, "Yeah, it's part of the Conjuring universe, but barely." So it didn't have as much hype about it, but I was interested to see it. I went and saw it in theaters, and I love Linda Cardellini. Love her as Velma. She was my Velma growing up in the Scooby Doo movies, and Grandma's Boy. She's hilarious in Grandma's Boy. Um, so I was optimistic, and it's very forgettable, man. It's very forgettable. I think there's one scene that freaked me out, and it was the umbrella scene out by the pool. I thought that was pretty well done, but for me, it's like the movie didn't know when to end. It was like, here's the climax, just kidding. Here's the climax, just kidding. Here's the climax. And then on top of that, you just had it wasn't very long. I felt like it could have been a little bit longer to give us a little more to La Llorona and like the lore there. I do think La Llorona was creepy. I do think she is creepy. Absolutely. But yeah, man, and the scene in the car with the kids in the car, I think that's a creepy scene. But overall, I just think that the scares didn't really land. Um, and you're just not as invested. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's, ah,
It
I
was
don't
a
know.
new character, and
Yeah,
nobody really, yeah.
yeah. It's technically a Conjuring Universe movie, but it doesn't feel like it. So I don't know.
hmm I just wanted to mention budget's listed as $9 million. Box office was 123.1 million. So I mean, we're still just printing money,
Oh yeah.
at this point. I would probably be pretty close to what you're saying. I didn't hate it, but I was just like, man, this is okay, but it's not great. Um, yeah, that's the problem when you make an incredibly well revered film is you've always got something to compare it to, and I'm not saying that if Curse of La Llorona had come out and there was no Conjuring universe, that this film would be like an all time staple. That's not necessarily what I'm saying, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's part of a universe, and you've got these other films in it that naturally you can you compare them with. And I think it's middle. I like the star of the film. I grew up watching her and that Scooby Doo movie.
Yeah,
As she
Velma.
was,
Yeah,
I love her, and she was in a show called with Christina Applegate on Netflix. I forget the name of it. Dead to Me, I think, and
Dead to Me.
she's
Yep.
great. Loved that show. Can't wait for the third season, but I think it's the third season. But yeah, loved that show. I liked her a lot. I thought she was great. But yeah, I was really rooting for this movie. Uh, but I don't think it dropped the ball, but it didn't carry it any further. So it's just middle of the road to me.
Something that was totally unnecessary. Looking back in hindsight, like it did not advance this or take it back at all. It was just kind of there.
And that's not really a sin to me, but I just wish it was better. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it was there to make money, and it succeeded. It made 100 and something times its budget. But it's just middle of the road, and I agree. I mean, it's when people say the Conjuring universe, probably the afterthought is the Curse of La Llorona, because it's the oddity, it's the
Yep.
Halloween 3 of the bunch. Um, in essence, it doesn't have the same reputation, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we've got two more films. 2019, Annabelle Comes Home, the third installment in the Annabelle series, featuring Gary Doberman as the writer and the director in his directorial debut. It was based on story treatment written by Doberman and Juan. Juan and Peter Safran co-produced the project. Annabelle Comes Home takes place after Annabelle and the Conjuring, and focuses on the doll after she was kept in the glass box in the Warrens Museum. Again, another scene in the movie that was so well done, people wanted to see a movie based around that. Jesus Christ, Juan's a master. Wilson and Farmiga reprise their roles as Ed and Lorraine, alongside Makina Grace as Judy Warren and Madison Eisman as Junie's teenage babysitter. The film was released on June 26, 2019. And let me give you guys the budget and box office. Uh, Budget is estimated anywhere from between 27 to 32 million. So actually, this is, I think, the highest. Besides Conjuring 2, this is the second highest funded. And we did 231.3 million at the box office. So again, we're still printing money. Go ahead, Nick. Annabelle Comes Home.
This one I was not trepidatious about because I loved Annabelle Creation. And then finding out that Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga were in this one, I thought lended some credibility to it. So I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. Annabelle Comes Home, in my opinion, is a friggin' blast. It's not very scary, but I don't know if that was ever, if it was ever supposed to be. The director always talked about this was going to be like Night at the Museum in the Warrens' house, basically. There's going to be a lot going on, a lot coming to life. It was going to be action packed. It was going to be thrilling. It was going to be that. And it is. It is. You get a lot of spirits. You get a lot of happenings going on in the house. You get some characters making some dumb decisions. But yeah, I think Annabelle Comes Home is so fun, man. It's not better than Annabelle Creation because that movie legitimately frightened me, and I think it's just a super well crafted story. But this movie, dude, it's fun. I mean, it's fun, and yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo the same sentiments. I have to excuse myself. These last two movies in the series, I did not see in theaters. For one reason or another, I don't remember what I had going on, but I did not see Annabelle Comes Home in theaters. But it's funny. I hate to echo you, but I actually really liked it too, and I wasn't scared, but I had fun. And I think calling it Night at the Museum is actually a really good metaphor for the movie. I mean, Vera, and what's his face, Patrick, they're in the movie, but they're not in the movie.
Yeah,
So
they
it's
have two
cool to,
like two scenes.
yeah, it's still cool to see them. Uh, Especially in something besides a movie called The Conjuring, because so this one kind of gave it a little bit of, made it a little bit different and cool. Which is probably why the budget was higher to afford them.
Yeah,
But you know, I had fun with this one. I think it's certainly, you know, certainly a welcomed addition
Yeah.
to Annabelle. So yeah, I just had a great time. I thought it was energetic and fun, and I wish they could just actually call the damn movie Annabelle 3, and we can actually get some. I hate these random titles. All of our franchises do this, and it's so annoying. But I call it Annabelle 3 anyway. So yeah, so I liked it. I liked it a lot. I had a great time with it. I rewatched that one when I got the Blu-ray. I watched it like 4 times in like 2 weeks because I just thought it was really entertaining.
Yeah.
So yeah, Annabelle Comes Home. I dug it. Annabelle
It's fun.
3. hmm and now we're up to the latest edition, the long-awaited. So the previous Conjuring took place in 2016. So it's been 5 years. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which I hate that title.
Hmm.
I just wish it was called The Conjuring 3. I don't know why we have to do this ridiculousness. Anyway, in 2016, Wan stated that though he would not be directing in another film in the series due to scheduling conflicts, as we could see, he was working on some major movies like Aquaman. There could be many more Conjuring movies. This is a quote from Wan. There could be many more Conjuring movies because the Warrens have so many stories, acknowledging that there are other filmmakers that would love to continue the Conjuring world. Wan said that the next film in the series would take place during the 1980s and spoke of ideas for the films to explore lycanthropy, citing American Werewolf in London and the Hound of the Baskervilles as inspiration. Can't hate on using the American Werewolf in London as inspiration there. Safran stated that the next film would not be a haunted house movie. David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, that's his name, David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, was hired to write the screenplay. In August 2017, Wan explained that the third movie had been in development a long time, as well as all the creative minds involved wanted it to live up to the quality of the previous two films. In October 2018, Michael Chaves was announced as the film's director after previously directing The Curse of La Llorona. Wan was impressed while working with Chaves on the film and claimed that Chaves would make a great addition to the creative team. Wilson and Farmiga reprised their roles, with the plot revolving around the real-life "The Devil Made Me Do It" case, a legal trial where the defendant claimed to have been possessed during the crimes of which he was accused. Production began on June 3rd, 2019. The film was initially scheduled for a September 11th, 2020 release before being pushed back to June 4th, 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The movie was, however, released by Warner Brothers Pictures and New Line Cinema in the UK on May 26, 2021. The film was theatrically released in the US on June 4th, 2021, where it had a month-long simultaneous release on the HBO streaming service. And if I can give you the budget and box office, it's listed at being $39 million, so $1 million less than Conjuring 2, and brought in $202 million at the box office. But that's actually still really impressive.
Very for streaming on HBO Max. Without HBO Max and without COVID, this probably would have made 300 million.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
But this is fresh in our minds. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. What was your impression?
This one wasn't hard for me, man. Like, this wasn't the Annabelle and The Conjuring 2. These are movies that took some time for me to really find out where I place them. This one was pretty straightforward when I first saw it. Saw it opening night in the theater. I've been waiting for this movie forever. I love the spinoffs, but nothing compares to the mainline Conjuring universe films. Like, they're in my opinion. And I walked out of the theater, and my first thoughts to my brother were, I think it's my least favorite of the three Conjuring movies. I don't think I know it is, but I think that it may have one of the most probably the most ambitious story of the three. And I really loved the acting. Again, the opening scene is gnarly. And the fact that that's practical effects too, that's a contortionist with the kid, is crazy. And I liked that we didn't get the same kind of haunted house thing. You know, we got a human villain this time. I mean, we had spiritual villains too, but we had a human villain pulling the strings, which was interesting. It's just, it didn't scare me. And that sucks because I want to be scared by these movies. but it's really enjoyable. And I think some of the performances, the guy who played Arnie Johnson, I thought he was fantastic. I mean, I thought he was so good. But yeah, I mean, that's my thoughts on it, man. It wasn't a letdown for me because I mean, when you compare it to The Conjuring 2, that's like the gold standard, man. But you know, it's really good. I like it.
Yeah. It is my least favorite of the three Conjuring movies. I don't want to say, I don't want to be a broken record, but yeah, I think when people ask me about the film or when I talk about it, my sentence is, boy, I miss James Wan. Because you could clearly tell that he did not make this film. But when I bought the Blu-ray and watched it, I lightened up a little bit. I certainly don't think it's a bad movie. I just, again, I think I go back to, because it's in a universe, because it's in a world of movies with sequels, you naturally just want to compare them.
Yep.
And I do agree that the story is probably my favorite out of the three, to be honest with you. I loved the story, but yeah, I wasn't scared by the movie, and I wasn't non-entertained. I really got defensive, and this is going to sound so silly. The homage shot of the poster of The Exorcist. If I would have loved the movie, I would have loved that. But because I don't love it, I'm just like, take that out of the damn movie. Silly, I know, but I lightened up a little bit when I bought it on Blu-ray and watched it, and I don't know. I'm gonna have to simmer with this one longer to really figure out where I stand on it. But I'm middle of the road on The Devil Made Me Do It or The Conjuring
Well,
3.
once the next subpar Conjuring universe movie comes out, you'll have a better appreciation for this one. That's usually how it goes. Yeah.
But it could be an Annabelle Creation thing, and it
Well, and
blows the
right now we have no idea what's going on with this universe. There's
well.
not
I
from
can
what I've read.
I can read you some stuff that is speculated. So I guess we'll do that real quick because after this we're gonna rank the series.
Yep.
This is what's listed on Wikipedia under future films. Now, obviously, this is let me read this to you. Future films. There's two called The Crooked Man and an untitled The Nun sequel. The Crooked Man. This is what it has listed. In May 2017, Safran said that The Crooked Man was being considered by the studio for a feature film. By June of the same year, a spin-off film titled The Crooked Man, featuring the character of the same name from The Conjuring 2, was in development, with Mike Van Was writing the script based on a story treatment by Wan. Wan and Safran are set to produce the project. Wan later told that The Crooked Man is in early stages of development and that the intent with the movie is to develop a dark fairy tale subgenre of horror films. Kind of sounds like what happened with Malignant. By September 2018, Safran gave an update on the project, stating that the script was in progress of being written and that the studio intends to wait until the story is fully developed before production will begin. He further explained that the intention is for each of the different films in the franchise to have its own style. That was in September of 2018 when that was stated. This is correct, this is Wikipedia, so you never know, but there's that. And one more is an untitled The Nun sequel. In August of 2017, Wan discussed a possibility for a Nun sequel and what its storyline may be. I don't know where potentially, if The Nun works out, where The Nun 2 could lead and how that ties back to Lorraine's story that we've set up from the first two Conjurings and make it all come full circle. Then in April 2019, Safran said that a sequel was in development, stating that there was a really fun storyline planned for the film and commenting that there was inevitability to another Nun movie. Later that month, Akilah Cooper signed on to the project as screenwriter, while Safran and Wan will serve as producers. Bonnie Aarons will reprise her role as Valak, the Demon Nun. So, I mean, that's, Wikipedia, but you never know. The Crooked Man sounds really cool.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
From what you'd read, those two were the two that I were aware of. But we haven't gotten news on them in like over 2 years now. So that's kind of like why I'm like, well, none of the movies in this universe have taken that long to get off the ground. So, and this was before COVID. So I'm wondering if maybe they tried to write some scripts for these and they were like, you know what? I don't know if this story really has much merit to it. I don't know if it needs to be made. Personally, I think we're definitely going to see another Conjuring universe movie. Absolutely. I would I would love to see a fourth film in the mainline universe of the Conjuring films, and I think that that's almost an inevitability at this point. Vera and Patrick actually both said when the third one came out that they would love to do more. That they hope this isn't the last one, which I was really happy to hear.
I think that's probably what's going to happen, quite frankly, because I think Annabelle has kind of run its course, and La Llorona is certainly it blew its load in one film, and I think
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
So I think that's honestly, I think that's the only place you could
The
go.
only reason they were going for a Nun sequel in the first place because it was the most profitable film in the universe. That's why the director said it was an inevitability at this point. Well,
Hmm.
yeah, because the studio's like, well, it made a ton of money. Yeah, but I think you'd be surprised to see you might cut that total in half with a sequel because a lot of people didn't like that movie.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but I'd love to see a fourth Conjuring film. That's what I want. All I say with that is no offense to the director. I'd like a different director. He didn't do a bad job, but I just don't think he can tap into what Juan can tap into with those types of movies.
I'll tell you exactly who needs to direct the next Conjuring movie.
Who?
Lee Winnell.
Oh yes, yes.
I think he's the guy to
Oh
do it.
yeah, yep,
And that's his boy. That's their
mhm,
boys,
yep.
you know? So really quick, before we rank these, I thought this would be cool to read. So this is the timeline of the movies in order of how they take place, not when they were released, but in from year to year. 1952, The Nun. 1955, Annabelle Creation. 1967, Annabelle. 1971, The Conjuring. 1972, Annabelle Comes Home. 1973, The Curse of La Llorona. 1977, The Conjuring 2, and the latest one that came out, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, 1981. So that's the actual timeline of the films. But we're gonna rank them now. From we'll do worst to best. So there's 8 films. So Nick, what is your number 8 in the Conjuring universe?
Annabelle.
All right.
It's my least favorite.
Is that? I guess that's it. That's all you want to say about that.
Yeah, and I will just say really quick, guys. I don't think it's a bad movie. I just bores me.
Somebody's got to come in 8th place.
Yeah,
Um, I am gonna say. I'm gonna say the Nun.
I knew it.
I'm gonna say the Nun. I the movie I had in my head was very different from the movie we got. But I could still watch it. So, but I'm gonna say the Nun at number 8.
Number
So
7,
number 7. What's number 7?
The Curse of La Llorona.
Curse of La
Again,
Llorona.
yeah, we talked about it. It's just it just didn't do anything. It was just kind of there, and it's like I don't think it's boring, whereas I find Annabelle boring, so that's why it edges out Annabelle, but it doesn't do much for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right. Well, my number 7 is Annabelle.
okay,
I agree. It's just it's all right, man. It's all right. Like it a
yeah,
little bit more than None.
okay.
So here we go. Number 6. Where we go at number 6?
The Nun. Uh, the bottom 3 in this is really easy for me. I don't know. I don't I don't hate it. I think it has some redeeming qualities, set pieces, cinematography, freaking Blood of Christ, taking out Valak at the end was badass, but it's not very good. It's pretty forgettable.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think we have the same bottom 3. My number 6 is Curse de la Llorona. I rewatched the majority of these. The only ones I didn't rewatch when I was getting ready for the show was Annabelle, which probably I think I just straight up skipped it. But yeah, Curse de la Llorona. I don't know, man. I guess I have a kinship to a peripheral. I don't know the woman, but I have a peripheral kinship to the lead actress in the movie, so I like seeing her in that. But the bottom 3 are kind of interchangeable. I guess in a
Yeah.
way. And I think it's probably safe to assume that a lot of people are going to have these three in their bottom bottom three, or their bottom three, so to speak. So this is where it starts to get interesting. Number 5 in the Conjuring universe. Where are you going?
This was hard. 4 and 5 were hard, but I've settled on it. 5 is Annabelle Comes Home. As fun as I think the movie is, because it is super fun and it's a good movie. It just is a good movie. You know, I'm not hating on it at all. I just think that I could have used a little bit more attempts at trying to legitimately scare me. But again, that's just a minor gripe because the movie knew what it was and it ran with it and it did awesome with what it was. So um, it's fun, man. These top 5, I love them all.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Annabelle Comes Home is 5.
My number 5 is The Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do It. Kind of basically what I was saying before. I need to sit with this one a little bit longer, but I just find it to be all right. I love the story. I agree. The story is fantastic. It's just the movie itself. So that's my number 5, man. That's just where it's sitting right now on the list. So Conjuring, Devil Made Me Do It.
Well, number 4, I'm not far off. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Yeah, I like it. I don't love it. I really like it though. I think it edges out Annabelle Comes Home simply because you get a little bit, obviously not a little bit, you get a lot more Vera and Patrick. I think they carry this movie like they do in all 3 of them. And there are more legitimate attempts to scare you. Whether they land or not, that's a different story. But I think this movie tries harder than Annabelle Comes Home does. And like I said, no fault of that movie because it knew what it was. This movie tries. I just don't think, without James Wan there, it just wasn't executed as well. So,
all right. So my number 4, I think we had them flopped. My number 4 is Annabelle Comes Home. Again, I have a lot of fun with that one. So
we've had pretty much every single one like flip flopped.
Yeah.
This will be interesting though.
Well, my number 1, I'm 100%. I'm not losing any sleep over my number 1. But number 4 for me is Annabelle Comes Home. I had a lot of fun revisiting that. So just very entertaining. Love the house and everything, and I love the creepy, memorabilia room.
Speaking of houses, really quick, I just want to say, you mentioned that. I've noticed, and I said this when we were watching *Malignant* last night, every one of James Wan's films centers around a creepy house.
Yeah.
Even if there's always a creepy house. The house in *Malignant* is creepy looking outside. Just is. Like
I want to have a house like that. I love that house.
I know. He loves his creepy houses, man.
Yeah. Loved it. Number 3.
Annabelle Creation. Dude, awesome movie. Awesome movie, creepy movie, great story. Emotional, like really does like tug at your heartstrings sometimes, which is weird for a horror movie. I guess not really, but whatever. But unfortunately, the 2 movies that are in front of it just do everything Annabelle Creation does, just a little bit better. So, Annabelle Creation.
My number 3 is The Conjuring, the first one.
Oh.
I love it. Love it. It's not like I'm gonna say anything. I'm not gonna put a but behind it. I love it. First half is so good. I think the first half of Conjuring is so freaking good. That's my number 3.
That shocks me. I did not expect that. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Did not expect that at all.
I mean, I rewatched, with the exception of Annabelle, I rewatched all these this past week. So
Yeah,
This is where I'm at right now.
All right. I respect it. Number 2 is flip-flopped. It's The Conjuring. Again, probably the scariest movie I've ever seen. Just at least that initial experience. No but. Again, like you said, no buts. I love
it. Number 2 is The Conjuring 2. Yeah, I love The Conjuring 2. That's it. I don't know what else to say. Love it. Conjuring 2 is my number 2, though.
Number 1 is The Conjuring 2. I think it's the best film in the universe, in my opinion. I think it's got a great story. It's got great acting. It's creepy. And Christian, he'll tell you too, he's a sucker for that 70s UK punk rock feel that this movie has. Um, I don't like the kid talking about biscuits all the time.
That's what they
But
call cookies.
I know. But yeah, it's The Conjuring 2. It's one of my favorite horror movie sequels ever. And if you guys
Nice.
watched our second episode of this podcast, we did our top 10 horror movies. And this, I think, was my number 3.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well, my number one's Annabelle Creation. I love this movie so much. I love every frame of it. I think it's so scary. I think it's to me it's the scariest one. I love Annabelle Creation. The house, the kids.
What's the scariest part of it for you? Like, what's the one scene that sticks out?
Honestly, when they just have the shot of the doll sitting in that box room with
Yeah.
the and you just see the shot and it's a long shot, dude, it's terrifying looking to me. And with the demon in the movie, you don't see it too much, but I mean, if you pause it or just get a glimpse of it online, if you do like Google image of it, terrifying. I just love it to death. I think it's horrifying. It's my favorite one.
The sound design in that movie is brilliant too. I mean, it's brilliant. I'm not even just talking like score. I'm talking like just the sound design, the footsteps you hear, and like they're getting closer and they're getting louder, and like the sound design is on point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say that The Conjuring 2 is my number one, but when I was rewatching them, as much as I love The Conjuring 2, dude, you gotta maybe it's the punk rocker in me, but the fact that Annabelle Creation came out and people were just gonna go into this movie to I feel like just kind of support it because they like the rest of them, and we'll go see that other Annabelle movie, and then it whipped everybody's ass in the theater. So I just respect that so much. I love it. It's an underdog movie, but it's really good. I mean, it's not a gimmick. It's just so scary to me. I love it so much, and it's still scary when I watch it, even though I know what's coming, dude. It's atmosphere
Yeah,
personified. So, but I mean, a lot of the Conjuring movies are, but I just gotta give it to Annabelle.
yeah.
It's gotta be my number one.
I respect it, man, and I'm just gonna wrap up my end of this just saying this is a horror franchise and universe that is well deserving of the money it's made and the critical acclaim it's gotten because
Mm-hmm.
it was created by James Wan, and every movie in its own little way feels like an extension of him in its own way. Uh, it's got some of the most genuinely scary movies over the past 20 years, 30 years. Um, Hell yeah. I mean, I hope it doesn't die because, we don't have a lot of long running modern horror franchises anymore because studios just want to continue to reboot and remake. So it's nice to have one that is not only surviving, but thriving. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for more, man. Give me more.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll probably get one more, and then in 7 years they'll remake The Conjuring.
I couldn't imagine.
That'd be sad.
Yeah.
If you were gonna put *Malignant* in here somewhere, regardless of it being, I know it's not a Conjuring film, but just if you were gonna stick it in there somewhere, comparable to those films, do you know where you would put it?
Yeah. If we were just taking these 8 films in quality, not just like the Conjuring universe, just in quality, I would have put *Malignant* in quality at 5. Um, no, I wouldn't have. I would have put it at 4. Yeah, I would have put it at 4. I would have liked The Conjuring 1, 2, and Annabelle Creation better. I liked *Malignant* just a tad more than The Conjuring The Devil Made Me Do It, but granted, I still have only seen The Conjuring 3 once.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I really like *Malignant* that much. I can't wait for people to tell us how we're wrong. But hey,
I'm pretty close to. I loved *Malignant*. I was so grateful again for it being so bombastic and outlandish as it was. Total, get away from reality. I'm pretty close. I'm pretty close because I liked it a lot. Um, but this was fun. I stand by my list. Hate if you want, agree if you want. I don't care. But let me know your list, obviously. Um, the beauty is, I think there's big fan bases out there for each individual film, so it's gonna be interesting to see which one people love the most. So this has been the Conjuring, ranking the Conjuring universe. Nick, any final thoughts or final words for everybody?
Thanks again, Danielle Harris. If you ever watch this, really appreciate that. And Jay, thanks for setting that up.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed talking the Conjuring universe, guys, and let's cross our fingers for more Conjuring films.
Yeah, we'll end it right there. That's perfect. Thank you guys for watching the Uneeda Horror Podcast, and we'll see you next time. This has been a production of the You Need a Horror Podcast. You need it, we got it. Thank you for listening.